Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Week 7 College Football DFS show. As always, joined by Casey Carruthers, head writer over there at Daily Fantasy Sports Rankings. What's going on, Case?
Hey, man. Another October night. Got
Indeed.
my pumpkin latte going on.
Oh, you're one of those pumpkin guys?
Pumpkin guy.
I got a big bottle of cranberry juice. That doesn't really do much, but,
No.
whatever. Hey, gotta recharge the battery, so I'm ready to roll this weekend.
Yeah.
As I was telling you, I got the Halloween party and me going as Al Borland, so East Windsor, New Jersey. Look out. Tool time is coming to you.
Yep.
From the now, as you know, we're both Phillies fans, so obviously we cannot have the Mets winning here tonight. This would just be detrimental to me and to you and to the whole Philly nation.
Yeah, I'm actually I kind of come from the school where I'll root for the team that beat us. Since they're in our division now that the Phillies aren't in it.
Mm-hmm.
The only exception to that is the Cowboys. Never, ever, ever will I root for the Cowboys.
No. Maybe you feel like you got him in a pool or you're throwing a couple ducats down on him or something like that. But even in that case, it's like, I'll take the loss. I won't even worry about it.
Yeah,
but, we have some special rooting interest at hand, too, with J-Roll and Chase Utley there.
That's
Hell of
right.
a slide, Chase, by the way. What'd you think about that? You think dirty or that's just part of the game?
It's just part of the game. Do I think he was trying to take him out? Absolutely. Do I think he was trying to hurt him? No. I don't think he should have been suspended because it's not the right time to set a precedent. But, I don't have a problem if baseball wants to look at that in the offseason.
Yeah. Now, if that happened to Chase Utley, I'd been calling bloody murder. But, part of the game. So now I know we haven't had John here in 2 weeks. How had the contest been going for you?
Pretty good. It's kind of like I seem to be splitting slates. I either do good in the morning or do good in the afternoon or the night. But when I do well, the lineups do really well, and I kind of build up the bankroll a little bit, so I end up winning more than I'm losing.
Nice. Well, as I mentioned earlier, you can check out Casey's articles at Daily Fantasy Sports Rankings. Damn good site there. This is Case, the head NCAA football writer. We'll stop blowing smoke up your hole there, but we got to get to the slate. We got some great games going on here.
Hey, real quick, Al, Doug Norrie says hello from dailyfantasysportsrankings.com. Says
Doug,
hello.
what's going on, guy? Long time. We haven't spoken in a while, but it's all right. Hey, are you guys coming to the Daily Fantasy Sports, or what is it, the DFS Players Conference there in New York?
No, I'm not coming to that. Nope.
What about Doug and the guys?
No, I just don't think it's going to work schedule-wise.
Right.
One of the guys actually lives up in New Hampshire.
All right.
So he's kind of far away.
All right. I will be there, so if anybody watching this show, come say hello. We'll shake hands, take a couple pictures. I don't think you're going to want my autograph. It's probably not even going to work. You'll probably use that napkin to wipe your mouth later in the night. So all good, all good. All right, let us start. Now, I like the late slate a lot better than I like the early slate here. We'll get into both. I like to mix it up with our lock, sleeper, wild card segment that we got going on here. But who is a lock at quarterback for you this week?
I'm going chalk just because I think he's that good, and it's Seth Russell.
All right.
The Baylor offense is just, arguably one of the most potent in the country. The only thing that ever works against Russell is himself because they're just up so many points that he never gets full run. I don't necessarily think West Virginia's going to hang with him, but they'll probably be a little bit more of a challenge than most teams, so you might get a full game out of Russell. He's under 10,000 on FanDuel, and he's only 9,000 on DraftKings. I think you can fit him in both.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to say the same thing, but I think West Virginia definitely has the type of offense that can hang with them. But again, even with Baylor, we saw it last week when they were playing Kansas. Even a crap school like that, they're still going to put up their points, so it's not a huge deal. I just wish our boy Russell would have threw a couple more to Jay Lee last week and stop letting Coleman hog all the touches. But,
Coleman's ridiculous.
It sucked that game too. So I had Jay Lee, and then I guess there's another number 4 on Baylor who's on the defense. So I just turned away for a second. I go to look, and I see number 4 going to the end zone. I'm like, woo! We finally got something. It was a defensive touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are they showing the quarterback? We all know they're getting killed. Nah, defensive touchdown. Sons of it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go with the lock and quarterback, I'm going to go on the late slate. I'm going to go Trayvon Boykin on this one. I haven't spent up that much for a guy like this at quarterback yet, but I think there's so much value everywhere else on this slate that we can afford Boykin on this one. The guy's just putting up around, 40, 50 points consistently. So I want to see what this is like. I haven't had it on my side. I've always, been praying that he doesn't go off for that much. But going up against Iowa State in this one, oh, man, this is a juicy matchup. I got to have some of this.
Yeah, he should be a lot of opportunity in that game. He should have no problem hitting value. It's funny that you said that about the quarterback because I used to never really spend up for quarterback either, but this year it seems like with the pricing over the last few weeks, I've always spent up. I've always gone after the Greg Ward, the Trayvon Boykin, the Seth Russell.
Right.
It just seems like the way that the pricing is working out this year, it's a little bit easier to spend up. It's a lot of fun, man. Wait till you have Boykin.
Yeah, I know. Watch, and then this is the game where he tears his ACL, and I'm gonna be, what? You gotta be kidding me, man!
Yeah. Don't say that, because I have him too.
All right, well, here's to a healthy day for Mr. Boykin, and elevate that draft stock, kid. Now, are there any locks that you got, or you just want to move it over to sleepers?
Yeah, I mean, as far as locks, I'm not really getting away from Russell at all on FanDuel or DraftKings. I'm gonna have him in all my cash lineups.
All right. Well. Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the early slate, there's a couple other guys. I'll get to them in the follow. Well, not the next one. Both of my wild card plays are going to be my quarterback plays in the early slate.
Yeah.
But for the price on the late slate, a new Solomon there on DraftKings for $6,900 going against Colorado. I kind of think that price wise, no, it's not a lock. But guess what? I think he's going to do just as well as probably Boykin going against Colorado. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. Maybe he sits there in the low 30s, high 20s, something like that. But, if we're talking a point per dollar production here, Solomon's going to do very well. And, I got to talk to you about this too, the price point there on Solomon. I mean, is it justified for him to be that low, or, is DraftKings just snoozing on this one?
I don't know exactly how they come up with their pricing, but my guess is with the injury, he played against UCLA, but he went out early, then he missed a game. He came back last week. I ran him. He wasn't that good, but it was just because the way that game went. Arizona didn't need him to do a lot, or Nick Wilson. They just got up early. So I think that's why the pricing's discounted. You could be at a spot where you're buying him cheap.
Yeah, man, I definitely like this. Obviously I only play, the college football game on DraftKings, so, I have to worry about that two quarterback, type of situation. But yeah, on a FanDuel, I would think a Boykin or a Seth Russell will get it done for you on both slates.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll talk about some sleepers at the quarterback position. Who you got for us this week?
So sleeper, he's a well-known name, but I think he might be an underplayed guy this week is Chad Kelly from Mississippi. He kind of started out on fire with dropping 70-point performances back-to-back opening weeks for Mississippi and then capped it off against Alabama on the road. Then he laid a stinker against Vanderbilt and Florida. Now, Florida's good. He bounced back last week, but they played, I think, New Mexico State. So this week, they have another cake matchup, so he seems to kind of dominate when it's in this situation where Mississippi's expected to roll pretty easily. I'm actually surprised that they're only 10-point favorites. I think they're going to win by a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I had Mr. Kelly here on my wild card, so yes, he will be in my slate for the or in my lineups for the early slate. He's not as much of a sleeper as I thought he was going into this because I'm looking all over Roto Grinders today, and every single article has him in there. So
yeah.
I don't think we're going to get him there at that discounted price that under-owned percentage that we would have hoped for. But still, you're right. Going up against Memphis, Memphis is going to come back with some points as well.
Yep.
I guess the guy that you want to combine him with would be Treadwell. There's really nobody else that jumps to mind when I think of the Mississippi offense. I know I can't think of his name right now, but the running back there. He's not necessarily a high volume kind of touch guy. It's all home runs or miss.
Yeah.
I made that mistake. I just threw a lineup in late when they played at Florida that one game, and I had him. So, Chihuahua. But come on. Did anybody really know that Florida's defense was that good at the time?
Oh yeah. No, I played Kelly. Actually came out of retirement too and threw down a couple shekels on Mississippi, thinking that they were going to make a statement. Yeah,
Oh no!
serves me right. Serves me right.
Yeah, every time we think you got a good idea, come right back down to earth.
It was
Um,
so stupid too. I read some article that said like half the Florida team had the flu that week, and I was just like, oh my god, they had the flu. They're not going to be able to hang with Mississippi. They're going to be all exhausted. Yeah.
all right. So if we're talking about, sleeper quarterbacks, I think we got an interesting play on our hands here coming out of Wake Forest. Now we've seen this guy before play. Now I know Hitton's questionable for this game, so it looks like it's going to be Wolford. But for 4,700, that's not a bad play at all. Now this is Wake Forest at UNC. That's going to be in the late slate. I I don't have the lines up right now, but I don't think that the over under in this one is too low. But again, it's UNC that they're going against, so I'm not terribly worried. They also have a wide receiver there by the name of KJ Brent, who I would recommend piecing up there with. But yeah, for 4,700 to get a quarterback, Wolford's had some pretty bad games here late, but probably against stiffer competition. I believe the last two were against BC and FSU, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, those were the last two. And then Army, that's the game that he got injured. So, he's been on a little bit of a slide here. But, if Hinton, that dual threat quarterback, is out for Wake Forest, then, Wolford for 4,700 is not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad. I like Hinton if he plays. I think he could be a pretty decent value.
Yeah, from what I read, he's questionable, it says here. Undisclosed injury, back issue. I guess it came up during the week. So, definitely something to check in on. But Hinton's very low price, too. He's even cheaper at 4,200. So,
yeah,
definitely keep an eye, my friends. That's a good one right there. With the wild card, I had Chad Kelly there from Mississippi. Definitely like that, but that's fine. We're in the same wavelength here. But I definitely like Baker Mayfield going up against K-State this week. $8,000 there on DraftKings this week. And listen, I know a lot of people had Mayfield last week, and they're unbelievably disappointed. I almost drank the juice. I just drank the gin. That's all, no juice. But I was thinking Mayfield all week, and then something told me rivalry game. Just something doesn't smell right here.
Yep.
Thank God I listened to myself. That's like the first time I've said that in a while. But no, I really like him in this spot here. K-State not very good against the pass or quarterbacks this year.
Yeah.
K-State giving up almost 24 DraftKings points to the quarterback position each week. The wide receiver position, I got to pull that up. I'll pull that up in a little bit while we're talking, but that is not a very good number for their defense either. So, lock and load Mayfield. This should be a nice bounce back game for Oklahoma, coming off a pretty embarrassing loss.
Yeah. For my wild card, it's more about the situation of what's going to happen in terms of playing time, but I'm looking at East Carolina with James Summer and Blake Kemp.
Oh, yeah.
I rolled Summers last week. He was named the starter, 4,500 on FanDuel, which is minimum price for a quarterback. He still ended up coming pretty close to hitting value, even though he only played basically a quarter. But this matchup against Tulsa is just perfect. He's too risky to put in cash games, but I'm going to take a flyer on James Summers for some tournaments at 4,500 on FanDuel, because with these big slates, you're basically just going to have an all-star lineup if you can spend 4,500 on quarterback. Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds fun. Now, I want to talk about Dane Evans for a sec, too, quarterback at Tulsa. Know a lot of people like him. Especially at this price. Tulsa throwing the ball around the yard. Kevon Lucas, he's gone for the year, so, that kind of dips into his production a little bit as well. But, I was looking at Evans's box, or his game log here from the last couple of weeks. Not that impressive. It is impressive, but not as impressive as you think it would be.
Yeah, no, I'm off Evans at his current price point. He needs to come down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking here. He's got two 30-point games here in the mix on DraftKings, but, a 25, a 22, and a 16, that's not what we're looking for out of $8,000. So.
No.
No, thank you, my friends. All right, so anybody else from the quarterback position, or we cover everything?
Maybe on the late slate on DraftKings, you can look at Potter from Akron. It's gives you a little bit of salary relief. It's a little bit of a risk, but Bowling Green has proven they really can't stop anybody. So it's kind of, they're kind of like the Lakers in basketball. You always find good value going against the Lakers. Well, Bowling Green's kind of that team. They run such a fast-paced offense and they play such little defense that, you can typically find some value amongst their opponents to roll up against them.
All right. The Akron Bowling Green game is in the early slate. But
is it?
Yeah, because I was looking for it. I thought it was in the late slate as well, but
No, I got it in the late slate.
Really?
Yeah, because I have Potter with Boykin.
Huh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong guy. Yeah, you're right.
All right.
You're right.
I got it here. All right. That's all right. We just don't want to confuse you out there in the internet world. We got it going on. We're good. All right. Now where Potter is?
No,
at Akron?
I was looking at it's Woodson. Woodson's the guy.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah,
6,800 there for him. I had Fronapfel, from UMass last week going up against them, so that was a fun time watching that one. ESPN3, what an amazing app. All right, running back position we got to get to. I'm not a fan of too many running backs this week, but we can break it down.
Nope.
Lock of the week for you.
I use that term very loosely with this. I'm right there with you. I didn't really see him. I mean, obviously Dalvin Cook's ridiculous, but at 8,900, you need really everything to go right for him to hit value. I'm looking to get out cheap in running back, especially for the early slate. I like Shannon Brooks. It seems that he's really becoming the man in Minnesota. His price has not caught up to his production. Last week he had 17 carries for 176 yards and a touch. He started the year as third on the depth chart, and he's moved up to sort of starter. I don't know if it's actually official that he's the starter, but it's clear in their offense he's the lead back.
Yeah, that's not a bad play there. And again, we're talking about using terms loosely and whatnot. Like, if there is a lock, I guess I would probably go to the late slate if I gotta go with a lock. And I gotta go with my boy Procise from Notre Dame. Taking a look at that price tag, 7,900. We had Washington just absolutely dominate. I can't even talk to that. I'm like, my mouth is moving too fast for my brain. But we had Washington absolutely dominate USC on that. What was it? That Thursday night game. We had the freshman Myles Gaskin go in there and just absolutely dominated in the Coliseum. We all know the issues that USC's been having this week with Sark and how he's out of the building. Better believe that's going to have an influence on these players, obviously in a negative way. Procise, it doesn't matter who he's going against this year. He's just absolutely ripping up the stat sheet. For 7,900, this is a great play. But, as both me and Casey said, I think quarterback is the position to spend up at this week. So, look, if you can fit a Boykin and a Procise in your lineup, we salute you, my friend.
Yeah. Procise has been a beast.
Am I saying Procise? I don't
know. You say Procise, I say Procise. Whatever.
Process for you and process for me. All right. Any other locks at the running back position?
No locks here.
All right, that's fair enough.
Looking to get out cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And look, we got Fournette on the slate going up against Florida. Also, Devontae Booker's in the mix. Royce Freeman going up against Washington. Now, these are all late slate guys.
Yeah.
Even the early slate, I'm not a fan. I think we could all go cheap. But yeah, I'm surprised at quarterback. We go with your boy Lamar Jackson.
Nah, I don't like the matchup. Just something doesn't feel right about it.
On Roto, I do the like the package for college football for Roto Grinders, and there's an article in there with like bargain bin players, and they had Lamar in there, and I was kind of like, I don't know, against FSU. Should have saw me against Houston, or who was that? NC State looked pretty damn good, but. Yeah, FSU, that's a tough matchup, even though the price is pretty good. All right, who are some sleepers at running back? I think we both got a lot of them for this week. So
yeah, I'm I don't know if he's a real sleeper, but on the early slate, Hairston from East Carolina. All right. He's only 5,300 on FanDuel. He's not a high ceiling guy. He's not someone that's going to rip off 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's kind of a grinder. but he's their only running back. As long as Summers doesn't get in there the whole game and it doesn't look like he's going to, Harrison's a decent way to go at running back to try to save as many dollars as possible to put towards the big name receivers. And he's got just as good of a chance to hit value 2 to 3x on that early slate for FanDuel.
I dig. If I'm going with a sleeper at running back, gotta go with my boy Dare Ogunbowale.
Yeah.
The most fun name in all of college football to say. 4,900 going up against Purdue this week. This is a phenomenal matchup for the Badgers, and even more for my boy Ogunbowale. Thing I love about this guy too, catches balls out of the backfield. Taiwan Deal looks like he might not play this week, so that gives him a major boost up. Now, you're probably going to have Ogunbowale at damn near a 50% ownership rate if that is the case with Taiwan Deal. But, that 4,900 in your lineup is definitely going to allow you some flexibility to move around with.
Yep, totally agree.
All right.
Dare all the way.
Dare!
Hundley from Akron, little bit cheap guy. That's it. I mean, I'm running Brooks on both sites during the day for the early slate. At night, I like what you were saying about Gaskin. I do like him. I think he's pretty good value on both sites, FanDuel and DraftKings.
I really liked watching him last week against USC. Yeah. He was a fun guy to watch. Kind of like a little Warwick Dunn.
Running back's ugly this week. I just, obviously there's guys that are good that are going to have good games in real life. I just don't know if the value's there from a fantasy perspective.
All right. I like the backfield from Rutgers this week. Going to bring it a little closer to home. Josh Hicks there, 4,500. I know we also got Robert Martin there for 4,000. I guess I'm going to go probably more with Hicks. I know that Martin gets more of the carries, but Hicks is more the home run kind of guy. If we're looking in terms of the box score there on DraftKings, obviously Hicks, he's averaging 14.5. Martin there at 8.2. But, just from watching a couple of Rutgers games this year, Hicks is just the eye test. He's the one that does it for me. And, Indiana couldn't stop 5 orange parking cones. So roll them out, baby. Yeah. Roll them out. I had a play here at wild card for running back. Where the hell? He eluded my mind. Oh, yes, DeAndre Washington, Texas Tech going up against Kansas. It's a bit of a jump in his what's that going on?
That's my dog, Howie.
Dog, hey, what up?
The fire alarm's going off.
Triples and blitz. DeAndre Washington, 6,300. Yeah, Blue Streak. You ever see that movie?
Yeah.
Great movie. That's the kill of it. But yeah, DeAndre Washington there, 6,300. We know Texas Tech beat up bad on Kansas. So, and the funny thing about Washington is that, his big games have come at home this year. Yeah. On the road, not really doing too much. But, against Kansas, why the hell not? Let's take a chance.
Yeah, even Stockton's not a bad guy to give a look at, too, for Texas Tech. They're gonna crush Kansas.
Yeah.
So he should get, at least what he's been getting in terms of touches. So he could even pair the two together. But yeah.
Also, another guy, we could lump him in as a sleeper, wild card, whatever you like. We were talking about that Wake Forest UNC game. Elijah Hood, 5,400 there for the late slate. I like that play a lot.
Yeah.
The only thing I really have to say about that is Wake Forest sucks, and that's really it. And Elijah Hood is good. Look at me with my Dr. Zeus rhymes. All right, is it time for the receivers?
I think it is.
All right. That's what the dog was like, I want receivers.
Yeah. Enough of these boring running backs.
Yes, we don't care about them this week. All right, who are you locking up at receiver?
The two obvious names, Coleman and Doxson.
All right.
It's just, Coleman, 13 touchdowns through 5 games. That's
no big deal.
That's kind of hard to do. Almost.
Well, I guess not when you play for Baylor, but
Yeah, it's incredible. You keep thinking I don't want to spend up on this guy because it's just a matter of time before he doesn't catch 3 touchdowns in one game, but he keeps doing it. He's got it as safe as it gets. Really, it's hard to argue.
Yes, it really is. I mean, listen, I've been on the Jay Lee bandwagon all season. I can't leave until he does something worthwhile. And I'm not talking about catches an 88-yard pass and then gets tackled at the one. That absolutely ruined me that 1 week against Texas Tech. But yeah, I'm gonna have a little bit of Jay Lee. You're absolutely right though. It's your locks. I can't argue that at all. Maybe Jakeem Grant, 7,200 against Kansas. That Gabe Marks as well going up against Oregon State, also at 7,200. I mean, these are both guys that I really like. I mean, Harris Garrett too is another guy. I mean, these are all guys I guess I would classify as locks. When we're talking about that. Now, Harris Garrett, I guess he gets a little bit of a bump now that Lucas is out of there. I'm also going to have some Atkinson in my lineups as well. So, I mean, it's just the Tulsa passing game,
Yeah, no, I actually like Atkinson more, especially on DraftKings. I actually would put him probably in that lock category if you're considering value in there.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a $1,500 difference between the two.
Yeah.
And Atkinson, he's had 100 yards in every single game, right?
Yeah. He was the better receiver last week.
Yes, he was. All right, sounds good. Now, a couple sleeper wide receivers for the people.
I don't know if he's a sleeper, but FanDuel definitely made a mistake somewhere in the pricing. Ridley from Alabama. His minimum price, $4,500 on FanDuel. Last two games, I think he's averaged about 28 FanDuel points, 26 FanDuel points. Maybe not quite that high. But ever since Foster got hurt for Alabama, Ridley's been the guy that's stepped up and has been getting it done. Obviously they're a run-first team, but when they pass, they pass to Ridley, and they've produced receivers before in the past. Amari Cooper was obviously pretty good there. So minimum price on FanDuel for what he's been doing, kind of hard to argue there.
Yeah, the games that you were talking about, 5 catches, $120 and a touchdown against Georgia. Good for 26 DraftKings points, and then against Arkansas, 9 catches, $140, a touchdown, good for 32 DraftKings points. So absolutely, ever since Foster's been gone, those 2 games he's absolutely stepped up. 5,200 on DraftKings, so not a bad price there for him either. I'm also liking Isaiah Jones here from ECU. 5,800 on DraftKings. We know how bad Tulsa is. We know that they're going to get points coming their way, and we know they're going to get points on the scoreboard for themselves as well. This is a borderline lock wild card for me. I don't know why I threw him in the sleeper category, but let's just leave him there. Isaiah Jones, ECU, Purple Pirates.
Yeah, Jones is interesting because if Kemp's going to be the quarterback, then I definitely put him in the lock category. But if you think Summers is going to play, or at least play half the game, it kind of brings Jones down a little bit because they don't pass nearly as much when Summers is in there. If you look at his game log, it kind of goes lock and step with whoever the quarterback is. But as long as Kemp's in there, I mean, Jones I think he gets like 15, 16 targets a game. So as long as Kemp's the quarterback, I put him right in that lock category.
All right. Yeah, I guess with some sleepers, I mean, that's what I meant to talk about, but I just got so excited when I saw Isaiah Jones. I was like, I got to talk about him. Now, I got a couple here. My favorite, and not because his name is Allen, but Allen Lazard. They're at Iowa State. They are going up against TCU. Quite a porous defense there. 4,900 on DraftKings. Lazard is the top guy there for Iowa State. Now, whether the stats have reflected that, that's another story. But, in a game where they're going to be having to throw this ball all over the yard, I think Lazard should probably have his best game of the season in this one. Mm-hmm. And we mentioned him earlier when we were talking about the Wake Forest quarterback situation. But KJ Brent, they're at 3,200, damn near minimum price. Let's just call him minimum price because he's right there. But, this is a very talented receiver. And if Wake Forest does anything through the air, this guy's usually a part of it. So, huge fan of him. He really caught my eye during that Syracuse game.
Yeah, as far as my sleepers, my bargain guys, I'm with you on KJ Brent, and then also his running mate Cortez Lewis from Wake Forest. He's been picking up some volume, and then Johnny Jackson from Arizona. For whatever reason, he's not available on FanDuel. He hasn't been all year. His price is still sub 4,000. Arizona has a lot of receivers, but he's the guy that's leading the group in terms of receptions and yards. So Johnny Jackson's a nice salary relief guy to throw in there.
All right, yeah, I was actually thinking about going with Caleb Jones this week. He hasn't done a damn thing since week 2 there against Nevada. It's time for him to turn it up. This guy, I think when the season started, he was like a 7,000 or
Yeah,
6,000.
well, he was top dog last year. They just
Yeah.
have so many guys, and Grant and Dave Richards and Johnny Jackson. So they just have too many guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's Colorado. It's basically a night practice for them on the road. So,
7-on-7 drills.
yeah, I mean, come on, get it going for Caleb here. Let's go. But yeah, we talked about him also in that Colorado-Arizona game. Nelson Spruce. Arizona gives up a ton of passing yards. They're basically inept on the defensive end. They had a great game against Oregon State last week defensively, but that's as they like to say, a dog steps in shit every now and again too.
Yep.
And also Turpin at a TCU, 4,400 there. That's a nice matchup there with Boykin.
Yep.
Pair the two up there together, and hopefully you get it going. My mind was distracted momentarily because the Mets tied up the game, and that makes me very upset.
And if Listenby ever comes back, he's the guy to keep an eye on as well because his price has dropped with him being out.
Kobe! I'd like to race him one time and just see how far I get beat by. He'd probably smoke me by like 40 yards while he's injured. But
yeah, he's a track guy, isn't he? Isn't he supposed to be like a track guy or something?
Well, I think I might have a chance. If I'm on skates, then I think I might have him. I'm pretty good off the draw there, but if he's on feet and I'm on feet, that can get ugly.
Yeah.
We could set up one of those long, like, ice rinks, where I skate and he just runs on the side. We'll see. We'll call his people, get in touch with my people. We'll try to get this done. Any other plays, any other news and notes from college before we get out of here for the night?
No, I mean, tight end only on FanDuel because you have to play a tight end. But Rodney Mills is he's kind of in that Tyler Higbee territory where it's a wide open offense for UMass, and he roams the middle of the field. But he's not priced like Higbee. So in terms of tight ends, Rodney Mills is probably about as good as it gets for all you FanDuel lovers out there.
I actually used him on DK last week, so good call.
Oh, yeah, he was with 3,000 last minimum price last week. Yeah. He was a good spot.
It was funny because on Twitter, I guess the UMass what do you call it? Like the UMass PR guy. He wouldn't release any information, so you had all these people on Twitter that were like flipping out, like he won't say anything because of DFS purposes. It was funny. I was like, I saw one tweet that said he was going to play, so I'm just sitting there like that Michael Jackson meme where he's got the popcorn. Like, I'm just sitting here watching all the comments.
Yeah.
But it was funny. Want to give people my website will be up in hopefully a week. The guy working on it, he went to Vegas, and I haven't heard from him since. Hope you're okay, Derek. Now, I've been working on the NBA preview where I do a little write-up for each team, so that will be out. I'm going to put that into RotoGrinder, see if they want to post it on the main site. But even if it's just the blog on there, that'll be fine. But it'll also be on my website, alwalshdfs.com. Make sure we check that out. I cannot wait for hoop season.
Hey, man, how my Sixers going to be?
It's funny, and I'm glad you asked, because when I did my initial Sixers preview, I wrote, I was like, this is my surprise team of the year. The Sixers, they're going to go to the playoffs this year. So then I started, a couple days later, I went back to the Sixers one that I was writing, and I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. No. Mm-hmm. When I did, more in-depth on it, I kind of just did it as a gut call, all right, the Sixers are going to make the playoffs. But so I write in my article, actually, I write, well, this is how I started it, and I had what I had there. So I was like, oh, yeah, the Sixers, they're going to make the playoffs, and I haven't even started drinking yet. So I said, I lied. I went to happy hour that day. Happy hour is great, and well, you'll that's just a little preview for the people right there. But
all right.
It's going to be good. It's all in good fun, and I talk about how I want to fist fight people from Toronto. It's going to be a good time.
Looking forward to it.
I mean, listen, you shouldn't show up to the Barclays Center screaming, "We the North." I hate that chant. Ugh, gets me so aggravated. And I even had to throw in yesterday's Escalades or whatever expeditions, whatever was going on in Toronto. So that got a nice little shout out. All right, Case, good luck on the weekend slate, and I guess we'll be back at it next week, hopefully.
Yeah, man. You as well.
Sounds good. All right, Bort, me and Case, we're out of here. For the night. See you later.